War is supposed to be brutal, disciplined, and deadly serious. But the British? They somehow managed to march into battle with a mix of bravery and pure eccentric chaos. From brewing tea under machine gun fire, to charging tanks with umbrellas, to playing bagpipes in POW camps, British troops have a long history of mixing courage with quirks that leave everyone else wondering, how on earth is this real? But these strange habits weren't just for laughs. They actually boosted morale, kept soldiers focused, and in some cases, were weirdly effective. Nothing captures British wartime oddness better than their unbreakable loyalty to tea. Bombs falling, cities burning, death possibly minutes away, doesn't matter. It's always tea o'clock. During the Blitz, while German bombs tore London apart, the British government rolled out mobile tea vans into the smoking ruins. They weren't carrying weapons or medical gear, just kettles and endless supplies of tea. Firefighters, rescue crews, and medics could expect a hot mug as soon as the danger died down. And soldiers took this habit straight to the front lines. Wherever British troops went, tea followed. Mobile canteens were sent into combat zones specifically to keep morale up. When those weren't around, soldiers improvised, building makeshift stoves out of scrap metal, rigging kettles together, and boiling water behind whatever cover they could find, even while bullets cracked overhead. One of these determined tea-making sessions famously went very, very wrong, but that's a story for later. In 1944, near the French village of Illiers-Bauge, a group of British tank crews did what British tank crews always do. They stopped for a quick brew. But while they were busy boiling water, a lone German Tiger tank rolled in and wiped them out. One moment of tea-first war later turned into a deadly mistake. After that incident, the British military realized something. If soldiers were going to risk their lives for tea, better give them a safer way to make it. From then on, British tanks were fitted with built-in boiling units, little kettles inside the vehicle. So modern British crews can enjoy a hot drink simply by hitting a switch. No need to climb out and risk getting shot. War may be hell, but tea must go on. Now let's talk about one of the most unbelievable characters in all of World War II. John Malcolm Fleming Churchill, a man so wild his nickname was literally Mad Jack. If you heard of someone charging into World War II with a broadsword and a longbow, you'd assume it was a joke or a movie script. But Mad Jack did exactly that. He once said, "Any officer who goes into battle without his sword is not properly dressed." And he meant every word. During the retreat from France in 1940, Churchill spotted a German patrol. With complete calm, he drew his longbow, fired, and killed a German sergeant, the only confirmed bow and arrow kill of the entire war. Later, in Norway, he led assaults wielding a claymore. On one mission, he and just one companion silently slipped into a German position at night. Churchill stormed in, sword in hand, and 42 German soldiers surrendered to the one insane man pointing a blade at them. Eventually, he was wounded in Italy. Most people would panic. Not Mad Jack. He took out his bagpipes and started playing a Scottish tune while the Germans closed in. They captured him and sent him to a concentration camp. He escaped, got caught, escaped again. And when the war finally ended, he complained, saying, "If it weren't for those damn Americans, we could have kept the war going another 10 years. This man was chaos wrapped in courage." If Churchill was a medieval knight reborn, then Major Digby Tatham-Warter was pure Victorian eccentricity strapped into a paratrooper's uniform. He served with the British 1st Airborne Division during Operation Market Garden and quickly became famous, not just for bravery, but for being gloriously strange. Knowing radios would probably fail, he ordered his men to memorize bugle signals, as if they were fighting in the 1800s instead of the 1940s. He could never remember checkpoint passwords, so he solved the problem in the most British way possible. He carried a giant umbrella. His logic? Surely only an Englishman would be stupid enough to wander around a battlefield with an umbrella. And somehow, it worked. During one firefight, under heavy German fire, he strolled across the battlefield to rescue the battalion chaplain. "Don't worry about the bullets. I've got my umbrella," he told him, completely serious. Then came his most legendary moment. Wearing a bowler hat, holding a pistol, and carrying the same ridiculous umbrella, Tatham-Warter charged at German armored vehicles. He jabbed the tip of the umbrella into the viewing slit of an armored car, hitting the driver in the face and stopping the vehicle. Yes, let the record show that a British officer once took out an armored car using rain protection. Odd behavior makes for entertaining stories, but in some situations, it's not just a personality quirk. It's a survival tactic. During the Japanese occupation of Burma, the jungle was just as deadly as the enemy. Normal military strategies fell apart in the heat, mud, and endless vegetation. That's where Brigadier Ord Wingate and Mad Mike Calvert stepped in. These two commanders were unconventional thinkers, and they proposed an even more unconventional idea: a long-range, air-supplied commando force that would sneak deep behind Japanese lines and cause chaos. And to lead such a mission, they recruited men who were either extraordinarily brave or just slightly unhinged. Their roster included a demolition specialist from the Black Watch, a Rhodesian executioner, and one guy who didn't smoke cigarettes, he ate them. Observers called them odds and sods, a collection of misfits, eccentrics, and outright lunatics. These were the Chindits, their name taken from a mangled version of the Burmese word for lion. Operating far behind enemy lines, they carved out fortified bases deep in the jungle and launched constant hit-and-run attacks on Japanese forces. When ammo ran dry, they didn't retreat. They switched to hand-to-hand combat. Stories tell of Japanese soldiers being taken down with rifle butts, helmets, or captured weapons. A sergeant who wrestled a katana away from an officer and used it against him. And Calvert himself allegedly drowning an enemy soldier with nothing but his hands. The Chindits racked up 4 Victoria Crosses, dozens of Distinguished Service Orders, and hundreds of individual awards. They were wild, fearless, and brutally effective, proof that in some wars, being a little crazy might actually help. British humor is famous for being dry, sarcastic, and occasionally ridiculous. And yes, they managed to weaponize it during World War II. At one point, German forces built an elaborate fake airfield, complete with wooden hangars, wooden fuel tanks, and even wooden planes. It was meant to fool the Allies into wasting bombs on a worthless target. The British figured out the trick almost immediately. But instead of blowing it up, they waited patiently for the Germans to finish constructing their giant wooden masterpiece. Only then did the RAF send a bomber over the site and drop one single bomb, a wooden bomb, lovingly painted with the German word for wood along the side. Is the story 100% factual? Hard to say, but it's so perfectly British that it feels like it should be true. Some historians insist the wooden bomb story is exaggerated or outright myth, but RAF veterans, eyewitnesses, and even former Luftwaffe personnel have claimed it really did happen. And honestly, even if it never occurred, it deserves to be true, because dropping a fake bomb on a fake airfield is exactly the kind of dry, mischievous psychological warfare the British would absolutely spend fuel on. This mix of absurd humor and steel-spined resilience didn't disappear after World War II. Jump ahead to 1982, during the Falklands War. The Royal Navy destroyer HMS Sheffield was hit by an Exocet missile. Fire spread, the ship was dying, and the crew gathered on deck waiting for rescue. Thick smoke, cold ocean, real danger. Nothing about the moment was comforting. So what did the sailors do? They started singing. Not a naval hymn, not a morale anthem, They sang Monty Python's Always Look on the Bright Side of Life, whistling, laughing, cracking jokes as their ship slipped beneath the waves. And the strangest part? It caught on. When HMS Coventry was struck, and sinking days later, her crew sang the same song. It became a kind of unofficial, darkly comic battle hymn, British gallows humor at its purest. From dueling tanks with umbrellas, to sipping tea under fire, to trolling the enemy with wooden bombs, British wartime oddity wasn't just for laughs. It was a mindset, a cultural weapon shaped into morale, misdirection, and outright chaos. Where some militaries rely on rigid discipline, the British often leaned into eccentricity. They'll brew tea in a firefight. They'll charge an armored vehicle with a walking stick. They'll crack jokes as the ship goes down. And somehow, against logic, math, and probability, it often worked. Because when war flips the world upside down, a touch of madness might be the most effective survival tactic of all.